Hello everyone, it's Nick here with Nick's 80s Hard Rock album CD reviews. As I briefly mentioned in the previous video, I'm going to go through all of my CDs here in year order. So we kick it off with 1981, which is Motley Crue, and then over there we got Def Leppard, which was released in 1983, and there's another Motley Crue released the same year, and so on and so forth, right up until 2019 over there, Whitesnake. So we've got I counted, I've got 84 CDs, so there's 84 album reviews to get through. So we'll kick it off right now with Motley Crue. Now this was their first album, Too Fast for Love. Now this was released in 1981, and it was released on an independent record label called Leather Records. And then the previous year, 1982, it was released on a major record label called Elektra Records. Now they had two singles released off this album. One was called Live Wire, and this one, Live Wire, actually reached number 24 on the American Billboard charts, and they also released another single called Stick to Your Guns. Now I'll just read out the track list on this album. We've got Live Wire, Come On and Dance, Public Enemy Number 1, Merry Go Round, Take Me to the Top, Piece of Your Action, Starry Eyes, Too Fast for Love, and On With the Show. Now I've actually got a remastered CD which was released in 2000, and they put on some extra tracks like Toast of the Town, which was an unreleased track, a song called Tonight, which was a cover of another band, and that band called the Raspberries, which I've never heard of. There's a cover of one of their songs, and also another Stick to Your Guns, which was unreleased as well. Now this album actually it reached platinum status by 1987. It released platinum status. Now it was released in 1981. Now I've mentioned the word platinum and gold status. Now platinum status, just in case you guys don't know, platinum status is when an album reaches 1 million albums sold, 1 million plus albums sold. So by 1987, they already sold 1 million albums of this album, and most likely it's gone up by then since 1987. Now, I should also mention that they released Public Enemy Number 1 and Merry Go Round as two promotional singles as well off this album. Now the band, you can see a brief little picture here of the band. I'll just introduce the band members. You got Vince Neil there with the blonde hair. He's the lead vocals. Mick Mars on guitar there. Tommy Lee on drums, and Nikki Sixx on the bass there, bass player. Now, I should have mentioned that I've actually just listened to this album just before doing the review, and I'm going to do this with every album. I mean, it's not that I haven't heard this album before, I have, but just so it's obviously fresh in my mind. So I've just listened to it, all the songs. Now I'd have to say that that my favourite tracks would have to be Live Wire, Merry Go Round, Piece of Your Action, Too Fast for Love, and On With the Show, and Toast of the Town. Now Live Wire is a song they still play to this very day in their live concert set, and as soon as and that's the opening track to this album, and it's just full of. It's got the gritty guitars, and it sums up Motley Crue really. And it's, of course, you have to remember back then, 1981, there wasn't a lot of technology around, and so the actual production on this album is very basic. It's not overproduced. It's very basic, but you could tell these guys were hungry. They were young, they were hungry, and they were going to go places. To sum up this album, you could call it hard rock, but it's also got elements of punk in it, punk music as well. Not full on punk, but you can tell there's elements of it. You can hear it. And that makes sense because Nikki Sixx, the bass player, he was heavily influenced by punk music. And Nikki Sixx wrote all the songs for Motley Crue, so that obviously makes sense. And this album actually reached number, number 77 on the American Billboard 200 album charts. So it did, quite reasonable for a debut album for a band that no one ever heard of. Number 77 isn't too bad at all, to be honest. And yeah, it's, as I said, it's really basic, but it does grab your attention, and it's simple. They are simple songs, but they grab your attention. And Vince Neil, the lead singer, he's got a great voice, and for some reason, what stuck out in my mind that there was a some kind of innocence to his voice. I don't know. It's weird coming from a band like Motley Crue, but listening to this album, there was an innocence to his voice, and whether it's because he was quite young at the time, most likely, I don't know. But that's something that stuck out in my mind. But the song "Too Fast for Love" has got a great chorus, and yeah, it's just a really great album to have, and I would recommend this album for anyone who's interested in the hard rock CDs. And obviously, if you're a Motley Crue fan, you'll definitely have this album, because this is, well, their first album, and it's a must-have album. But and I've also said that I'm going, in regards to every CD that I do, I'm going to give a ranking out of 10 as to what I think of this album. Now, 10 being the highest, has been a fantastic album, and obviously number 1 being a pretty dud album. But I would give this album 8 out of 10. Now, their next album, "Shout at the Devil," which was released a couple of years later, I actually reckon that is better than this album. Obviously, they had crafted their songwriting and song playing a little bit more, but this is a great start, and I'm so glad that I've got this album, because, well, Motley Crue were one great band, as I've said, and this is where it all happened. This is where it all started for this band. That later on during their career, they obviously became, well, at a certain time, they were the biggest band in the world. By 1989, 1990, they were the biggest band in the world. And this is where it all started from. They were very young. They were probably maybe in their very early 20s, I'd have to say. I could be wrong, but yeah, this is where it all started. This is where all the mayhem and the chaos started for these guys. But they also have some quite poignant songs as well. One's called "Merry-Go-Round," and it's got a very nice sound, and it still sounds blissful in a way. The word blissful comes to mind. It's a soft song, but then it sort of gets a little bit heavy, then it goes back into the softness. So it's very well done, the song "Merry-Go-Round." The other song, "Piece of Your Action," it sort of hits you in the face a bit, but it's got a great vibe to it. It's got a great groove to it. So there we go. There's Motley Crue's "Too Fast for Love," 1981. Now, the next album I'm going to do is 1983, and I'm going to do Def Leppard's Pyromania album. So until then, we will get through every album that I have eventually. And until then, thank you very much for watching, and stay safe. And as always, keep on rocking. Thank you. Bye.